Hi folks, you probably recognize the story of the tortoise and the hare. I'm going to tell you that this has everything to do with how you can realistically lose weight. I'm going to get to that in a moment. Yet if you believe that there's any herb or a supplement or a celebrity diet or exercise plan or any kind of magic foods to eat or tricks that melt away the fat, then unfortunately folks, here's what I'm going to ask you to do right now. Please leave. No, seriously, because that kind of baloney actually cost me years of my life and years of my health. And if you expect any of that to work for you, then God bless you. Go off, be on your way. Now, in case we haven't met, I'm going to introduce myself. I'm Gregory Palumbo. Most people know me as a pianist, a composer, as a Christian music artist. I'm not a weight loss guy or expert. So let me tell you how all this came about. I was composing the soundtracks to Dr. Lawless's imagery audio programs that Dr. Phil features on his show. And so I was getting all this incredible science come across my desk, reports, ideas, concepts, health and wellness ideas. You can imagine how many come through our office. And in particular, I was interested in weight loss ideas because I was pretty significantly overweight. I thought I was 40 pounds overweight. It turned out I was a little over 70 pounds overweight. So I'm looking at these ideas because I got to a point where I realized I needed to make a change. It was a health issue that was really plaguing me, and I knew that this was getting very serious. So I'm watching these ideas come past my desk, and essentially what I did was I looked for ideas that had great science, really amazing science behind them, and real-world results. That combination, I would take those ideas, I'd put them in my little Rolodex, and I went and put those together and I used those. I also used an idea from a very old friend of mine, combined all of that. I ended up losing 70 pounds. So for 20 years I tried all of the typical stuff and ended up gaining 70 pounds. And then I tried something that's completely not typical and I lost 70 pounds. So I believe that probably the main reason I started gaining weight was that I was never an active person. Okay, I was always behind a desk or a piano 12 hours a day at least, right? So this was not, activity was not anything that was ever regular in my life. And so I believe that's the root, because when you don't have physical activity, you know, you're sitting at your desk, you're sitting at a piano, you start to snack, you know, especially when you're working on issues and challenges and, you know, doing stuff, you kind of, it's nice to kind of snack on something. So I just blew up, right? And in my mind, I could never take the time to go out and exercise because, you know, they're all telling you to at least do 30 minutes, but most of the time it's like an hour, hour and a half, and especially when you're out of weight or out of shape, you think to yourself, well, I can't just do 30 minutes. I'm going to have to do the hour, right? And so then it's not just the 30 minutes though, because it's the time to prepare. It's the time after so that you could, you know, clean up. It's travel time to and from a gym if that's what you're doing, right? It's a lot of time. In my world, 2 young children, very busy with the business, and I'm looking at if I take any time for exercise, I'm taking it away from my work because I'm not going to take it away from my kids. If I take it away from my work, I'm going to fail. This was what was going on in my mind, and I wasn't being dramatic about it. At that time in particular, I needed every second at that desk in order not to just drown. It was that bad, right? It's interesting. I was negative in the health area and I was negative in the business area, right? So I'm spending every second I can at this desk. How am I going to take time to go to a gym, right? Now, I got to divert for a second, just for a moment here, and tell you about a friend of mine. He's an older father. Our daughters at the time were 4 years old, and I remember him telling me something that absolutely spooked me out, and it was that he said, I can't do these things because I need to work. Same things that were going through my mind, right? And so he was older. He had some health issues. It was like an older version of me, folks. He starts telling people, I don't think I'm going to make it to my 60th birthday. He was 59 years old at the time. 4-year-old daughter. I don't think I'm going to make it to my 60th birthday. In the meanwhile, I had already started this program, but I wasn't there yet, right? So and I wasn't there yet. It hadn't had a complete effect on me yet, although it did have a little bit of effect. I'm going to tell you in a moment. It did have an effect at this point in time. But I didn't feel comfortable like forcing my way of thinking on it, especially since this is a brand new idea. It sounds crazy to most people who hear about it. I don't know. I should have, folks, because he died. He passed away. He was right. He didn't make it to his 60th birthday. One of the most wonderful men I'd ever met in my life. Left behind a 4-year-old little girl. Overweight, could not change it because he said to me, I can't get to a gym. How am I going to do that? At the time, he was actually working in Las Vegas, living in California, having to fly back and forth. The poor guy was under so much stress. So much stress. So he says to me, I can't do this stuff. And it killed him. In the meantime, I had been having the same thoughts, but I was already on this. And at one point before he died, I had lost not all of the 70 pounds, but probably 40 of them. He calls me up all excited. He says, Greg, I see 2 pictures of you on the internet. I'm going to show you tonight when we get together. And he shows me these 2 pictures on his smartphone of kind of a picture we had just taken all, our families together a few days before. And he found a picture on the internet of me with my daughter at a father-daughter dance. And so he shows me the father-daughter dance picture, and it's like a different person entirely. Even at that time, when I had only lost about 40 pounds of the weight, I looked younger. I looked much thinner. I mean, I just looked like the younger version, a younger brother of my own self. He's looking at that. He says, wow, Greg, whatever you're doing, look at you. And I was a different person back then, folks. I didn't go into it with him, and it's one of the great regrets of my life. I didn't feel comfortable. I wasn't a salesperson, right? It was his passing away that made me say, you have to go out and tell people. You cannot be embarrassed. You cannot say you're a pianist, you're not not a salesperson. You can't say those things. A man died. A person you actually feel is one of the most incredible people you've ever met. He died. You could have said something, right? So that's what this is all about, folks. Anyhow, I packed on 70 pounds because I never could do the typical stuff. And I think you get the point. I'm not an active guy. I never was. I most likely never will be. I prefer to be at my piano, be at my desk. It's what I like to do. I'm not an outdoor kind of guy. But here's what's fascinating. I look trimmer, more fit, and I look more like an athlete than any of my friends who spend hours in the gym. Any of them. How is that possible? Well, people regularly say to me, you obviously spend time in the gym. Folks, when they look at me, and it shocks me, I've been in this condition now. This has stuck, by the way, for now going on 4 years. Okay? 4 years. And when I say effortless, people, effortless is always a lie, right? Nothing is effortless in life. If it is, please let me know what it is. I'm going to do it tomorrow, whatever it is. Probably not. Whatever's effortless is probably going to have very little or no value, right? But I like that word because, look, in the past, when I ever managed to lose 5 or 10 pounds, I'd always pack that on and then some, right? And it would happen within, I don't know, a few months. I was going to say 6 months. I don't think I'd ever made it 6 months. I really don't. I'm sure of that. A couple months, I'd have it all back on. Here it's 4 years later. Is it effortless? I don't know. It's pretty close. You're going to find out what I do. You tell me, right? It's pretty darn close. For me to do something consistently every day for 4 years, it better be really close to absolutely effortless. So, when people tell me I look like I spent time in the gym, I find it absolutely hysterical because I don't spend any time in the gym. I don't spend any time exercising to look the way I currently look. And you know something? When I tell them what I actually do, I can see in their eyes that they don't actually believe me. You know that look when you tell somebody something that is unbelievable, they kind of just, there's a veil, I call it, that comes across their eyes. They're like, oh, this guy's blowing smoke up my skirt. I don't blame people to have that reaction, because what I did is literally the opposite of what everybody tells you to do. I don't know if it's the absolute opposite. I mean, some things are in common, but you're going to go, wow, that does sound like the opposite, right? And that should be a big clue, because if the things that are out there haven't worked for any of us, then the opposite would be the thing to do. But the opposite isn't just sit and eat bonbons, right? Um, but you're seeing where I'm going here, okay? So what's my secret that's so hard to believe, right? Well, first of all, it actually was, because most of the time when they say secret, it's such baloney. I can't stand that. But this actually was a secret, at least part of it. Part of it was a real honest-to-God secret that a celebrity fitness trainer was sharing only with his elite Hollywood clientele and his extremely wealthy clients. So it was just extremely good fortune. I happened to know this gentleman before he became a celebrity fitness trainer. We went to college together. In fact, the only time I got into anywhere near good shape, and it was nowhere near being the shape I'm in now, was when I was with him in college. He would drag me out. It was a few months. It was a summer. He would drag me out, take me on an old rickety bike I had, and we'd go ride from UCLA all the way down to Redondo Beach and back. It was, I forget the number of miles. It was a big ride. And we did that on the weekends and maybe a couple times during the week. It wasn't every day. I got into okay shape. I mean, again, I probably lost 20, 30 pounds, which I eventually put back on anyhow. But that was the closest I got. So I figured, let me get in contact with that guy. Maybe he's got something to shed some light on this, because he seemed always really practical to me. It was interesting. I had a sense that he'd have an answer for me, at least for exercise, right? Oh, I also had just started listening to the Think and Grow Thin audio programs. If you're not familiar with those are Dr. Lawless's audio programs that basically train your brain for new health-related habits, okay? And so I just started listening to them, and they tend to get you wanting to do something, right? The reason why I was listening to them wasn't that I was actually trying to make an effort. It's pathetic. I was doing the score to them, so I was, composing to them. I'm having to listen to his audio track, his narration, and as I'm listening to it, I'm thinking to myself, God, I really feel like making a change. I'll never forget, folks. I'm like, I had always forced myself into changes, right? Forced. Oh, it's time to. It's Monday. You're going to start dieting and exercising today. Now, I'd always forced, but now all of a sudden I'm like sitting here composed. I'm like, geez, I really don't want to snack on that crud, and I kind of want to exercise or do something, but again, all of the confusion in my mind. I had no idea but I knew that I was getting an impetus, and suddenly I'm like, why is this happening? I'm like, oh my goodness, it's these programs I'm listening to. So anyhow, I then, when I realized, wow, these things actually really work to give you like the mental framework to desire a change, I realized, hey, I've got to add a diet and an exercise component to this, right? Because Dr. Lawless told me you can't just sit on a couch eating bonbons, listening to an audio program, and expect to lose weight. And it makes sense, right? That's not going to happen. The audio program can make you want to lose weight, to really legitimately seek it out, but it's not going to, how is audio going to make you lose weight, right? So I knew I had to add diet and exercise, but I had tried everything, absolutely everything. And I would last a day or two, and I'd be back to my old habits. I just could never stick to anything. And finally, I understood it, because Dr. Lawless explained to me why this was happening, why I could never stick with a diet more than a few days, and why I could never stick with an exercise program for more than a few days. He explained to me that big changes in diet and exercise trigger the body's automatic systems to kick into gear. Well, what kind of systems? Protective systems. Listen to this, folks. This explains it all, right? When you diet, you're cutting back the food that you eat. You're cutting back calories. Well, folks, we've lived in this modern society where we're arm's length away from a 7-Eleven or a Starbucks for a very short period of time. The majority of human history has been spent in living in conditions where famine was a common occurrence. It would happen to a person multiple times in their lifetime. Hunter and gatherers. This modern society is very new, which is why we have all this obesity, right? As hunter and gatherers, we were faced with famine often for hundreds of thousands of years. Our body developed a defense to that. So when you cut back calories, your body says, uh-oh, famine. What does it do? Well, it starts hoarding all the calories you already have. It's in protective mode. It's the hardest time possible to lose any weight. Wow, that's a shock, right? You cut your calories, and yet it makes the body more resistant to losing weight. So, I mean, when I learned that, I was like, oh no, right? That actually scares me. Please don't be scared. I have a way around this. But it's true, right? This explains what you've experienced, right? So that's what happens with diet. What happens with exercise? A very similar thing. For hundreds of thousands of years, whenever we took to running or anything physical, it generally was because the predator was after us. It was we're chasing after our food, right? Those are fight or flight moments. Well, our body developed protection for those moments as well. And those moments cause you to not be able to lose weight as well. Your body protects itself, stores as much as it can because it needs to protect against the possible enemy. It needs to get the prey. So this is what happens, right? Well, it's no wonder that none of us could ever stick with anything out there. All of these programs, all of them, are about changing how much and what you eat all at once and adding a bunch of exercise all at once. That's the definition of how to trigger your body to go into protective mode to keep all the weight that you currently have on. So these exercise programs that go, another point, that make us go from no movement at all to a lot of movement. Usually in our lives, I'm speaking for myself. I won't speak for you. I would get up to go to the bathroom. I'd get up to go to the kitchen. I'd get up to go to bed. And that would be my quote-unquote exercise for the day. You go from that to massive amounts of exercise, which 30 minutes is nearly an infinite amount of exercise when you've gone from nothing, right? Nothing to 30 minutes. Actually, 0 to 30 is infinite, right? Can't divide by 0. But like I've said before, I really am an absolutely regular guy. You can tell. I mean, look, my issues are the same as everyone's issues. I'm a foodie. I love food. I'm Italian. I love food. I love to cook. I don't like exercise, folks. I should be embarrassed about that. I think exercise is a wonderful thing. People that are active and outdoors, I love that. I think that's great. I don't enjoy it. It's not for me. I enjoy doing what I do. I'm not going to be ever changing that in any time that I could foresee. But I may be regular. I do have a great list of contacts. So I started by calling this celebrity fitness trainer I've been telling you about. And you might recognize his name, Michael Carson. And you'll remember him from Paula Abdul's workouts, Carmen Electra's workouts. He was Body by Jake. He has been behind a tremendous amount of highly successful fitness, weight loss programs over the last 20, 25 years. And I started my conversation with him really bluntly. He's an old friend. I hadn't seen him in a mess of years, but we'd gone to college together. So I was blunt with him. I said, listen, Michael, if you tell me that I've got to exercise for 30, 60, 90 minutes a day, I'm never going to do it. And Mike, I'm in the position right now where I'm going to die if I don't change what I'm doing. And I really meant that, folks. I had some really scary things happening to me. Okay, things that were so frightening to me that I wasn't telling my wife because I knew she would force me to the doctor, and I feared the doctor would then hospitalize me for a bunch of tests. I'd be out of commission. God forbid I'd need to stay in the hospital. I needed to work. I needed to support my family. I can't be taking time for doctor stuff. This is classic what happened to my buddy. Just couldn't. You can't. You end up in a catch-22. It's like, well, if I take care of my health, then I'm not supporting my family, and so that can't be the case. So my health has to suffer. Well, you know, my friend died. Now his family's suffering anyhow. So it's just this horrible catch-22, right? So I told Michael this. If you're going to tell me to exercise an hour a day, forget it. It's just not going to work. Do you have anything that could be of value to a guy like me? I literally was talking to him like that. Please, tell me something new, right? I didn't believe he had anything to tell me new, folks. I really did not. At that time, I was like, this was a long bomb. What do they call it in football? It's a Hail Mary pass, right? I was just like, I think I'm going to die. I better throw a pass to somewhere, right? Dr. Lawless just told me that I needed tiny changes, and I need a huge change, right? So here's what Michael, it's funny how coincidental life is, because here's Dr. Lawless telling me to only make small adjustments so that I could sneak past our natural human defenses against losing weight. And what does Michael tell me? I still get chills when I tell the story. Mike tells me, listen, Greg, the reason why these big workout programs are on the market is that it gives people an opportunity to sell things. He says, it's just business. It's the way life is. It's nothing bad about it. He says, look, and if you could stick with that stuff, it's not that it's bad for you. It's just that most people can't stick with it. But it's out there because it's a product that way. It's the way they conceive of products, right? So he says, you know, and that's just the zeitgeist. That's just the way everybody thinks right now. And we were right at that time at the tail end of the government and its infinite wisdom recommending that women now spend an hour and a half a day exercising. Like women have all that extra time in their lives to now add an extra half hour to the hour that they're already not able to do, right? I mean, it's absurd, right? It's only absurd now that I know that there's a truth that supersedes that. I guess at the time it was like, oh God, in the infinite wisdom of the government, they're telling you to exercise more. So this is what I'm thinking Michael's going to tell me. Dude, get on a treadmill for an hour and a half a day. So anyhow, he's telling me, no, listen, man, the reason why these ideas are out there are to sell products and programs. He says to me, listen, I have some very busy clients. I knew this. At this time, I realized he had some major celebrities and major wealthy people. And he tells me, you know, whether they're celebrities on location or they're business moguls who are working around the clock, when these people are working, they're focused. And most often, they don't have time to get to the gym, okay? Even the celebrities who, when they're not filming, are at the gym every day. When it's time to film, it's a different mentality, especially if they're character actors, they're in character. It's a different thing, right? So, he tells me he teaches them this trick. Folks, I hear the word trick, and I'm like, oh, not another one of these tricks. You know, trick, gimmick after gimmick led me down a path of 70 pounds stuck to me, right? So I'm like, I hear the word, I instantly like start to shut up. I'm like, wait a minute, this is Michael. This is Michael, folks. You don't know my relationship with Michael going back. This is a gentleman that just would never BS me, especially with my introduction of, hey man, I'm gonna die, right? This is like, he wants to do everything. So when he says trick, I'm like, wait a minute, no, this is not like some charlatan on an infomercial talking about some gimmicky trick. And he tells me, look, it's really not a trick. It's absolutely simple science. So let me tell you, Michael spent years and years researching. Because he had high-end clients, he needed to service them. He realized, especially his business mogul clients, initially weren't lasting long on these. They just couldn't stay consistent. So they'd go to the gym when they were in town, when they had time. And a lot of these guys have gyms in their homes, but they're not home. They're on planes. They're at offices in New York, London. Folks, that's the life they live, right? So he was realizing he's not getting these folks results. And these are all results-oriented people. So it turned Michael into literally a research superstar. And so he's going through all this information to try to figure out a solution. Meanwhile, it's important to know that Michael's also a guy who's doing these incredible races. Like, I don't know the names of them. I never watched much TV, but like, I think there's like Race Across the Sahara or whatever they call them, right? You've seen him probably on TV doing these ridiculous things, right? So here's a guy who's in the best condition that a human being can get into, right? So what does he start doing? He says to himself, listen, I wonder how much I need to do, how little I can get away with to stay in this condition. And that's how all this was born, folks. He started to whittle away. What's the least? You know what's interesting, folks? I hear business people talking the same thing. Let's start simplifying. Simplifying. Once you get it working, simplify. Okay? So that's what he starts doing. He starts saying, how little can I get away with and still stay in this condition? So like I said, he's teaching his technique to elite clientele, celebrities. And some of these celebrities, he's telling me, that I'm noticing out there that look like they're in their, he's saying, look at the celebrities that are in their 40s, their 50s, 60s, 70s, right? He says those that look like they're 10, 20 years younger than their actual calendar age, and you know they haven't been under the knife, they haven't had plastic surgery, he says those guys are probably doing my technique. He's always been very, very respectful of people's privacy. So I only know of the few people he's on television with. The rest of them he keeps, he's one of my best friends. He keeps his client's privacy private. I love that about him. But he gave me that little hint, right? And, you know, in some of the business moguls, he's like, these people that look, you know, ridiculously young, they're probably doing my technique. It's funny, folks, because just 2 days ago, or maybe it was yesterday, I was on a news channel and they had this cutesy little thing where it was, you know, celebrities that don't look their age, right? And I'm looking through this list. I don't know how many pictures were there, like 15, 20 pictures. I'm clicking, I'm like, oh, that's Michael's client. That one's Michael's client. They're the ones that I know, right? And I'm like, I don't know about that person, but I know that they know that person, right? So it was interesting to look at this list of people and know that a couple of them are actually clients of his, and they're ending up on these news broadcasts about people that look incredibly young for their age that haven't had plastic surgery. So he tells me they're doing this technique that I showed them. And what he told me next, folks, is what really, really got me excited. He said to me, it doesn't just help you lose weight and get you fit. It does other things. It keeps you looking young. He's telling me about these celebrities, and I'm like, wow, it really does. And it gives you back the energy that you had when you were young. Now, folks, I never had that energy when I was young. I mean, I had youthful energy, but I was never an athlete. So I now know what that energy is supposed to be. I never knew it before. He's absolutely right. And it does keep you looking young. I mean, it's one of those things. It makes sense. Once you know the science behind it, it makes sense that all of this stuff happens. So now I was literally salivating for this, and I'm calling it in my mind the secret weight loss technique of the stars, right? And I have a brass band playing, there's a parade marching. I mean, I'm thinking to myself, this could really work for me. I mean, I'm going to lose weight, get fit, look younger, feel energetic again, and it doesn't take a big commitment. I mean, sign me up, right? But I got to admit I was a little skeptical, not about what he was telling me. I just didn't know that it would work for me. I knew he wasn't going to lie to me. It works for other people, but I just was thinking I'm the exception now. I'm too far gone. I could never be in great shape again. I'm just, you know, nice, chunky, chubby, older guy now, and maybe I could just ward off dying early. This is where my mind was, folks. I'm just being completely truthful with you in terms of where I was mentally. So he goes on to tell me what this. I love this line, though, folks. You could tell a marketer wrote this. I'll read it because it's funny. The marketers write stuff that if I heard this, I'd be like, that just sounds too, like, scammy to me. Fat burning, youth restoring, energizing secret. I mean, come on. Everybody says that. So anyhow, got to fire another marketer, right? They did this presentation pretty well, though. They got to throw in that stuff, too, I suppose. Anyhow. Not because I was skeptical any longer. I mean, look, it does sound impossible to work when you hear what it is. But this is Michael. He's used it successfully with major Hollywood stars whose livings depend upon them looking great. He's used it with business moguls. No, even though this sounds outlandish, when he explained to me what the natural human mechanism was that powers his technique, that was it. Folks, it makes complete sense. It's logical, and then it triggers something emotionally too. And for me, I always have to, I have to have the science. I'm a science guy. Show me the science. Okay. And then I also have to see, well, did the science work in the real world? Because I've seen way too much science that works great in the lab, and then you put it in the real world, and it just fizzles. So I need those two things. And if I see those two things, then I go with my gut. And that's why this struck a chord with me. It strikes a chord with people once you get past the preconceived notions that society and the weight loss industry has drilled into us. This is what makes sense. That does not make sense. Remember, folks, let me refresh your memory. You do all this stuff to cut back your diet, you're triggering your fight or flight response. Your body thinks it's a famine. You do all this stuff to increase your exercise, your physical activity. Your body thinks you're under attack and goes into protective mode. That's the science. That explains why we didn't lose weight with those programs. See, that just closes the book on those kinds of approaches. It's a profound statement. It's a bold statement, but I'm making it. Stand behind it. Now look, I'm going to say this here. I'll probably say it again later. There's no way I can guarantee that this system that I'm about to show you is going to work for you. I don't know you personally. I don't know what you do in life. I don't know anything about you. I know this worked for me without any question. There is no doubt, no way to debate it. Okay? I know this works for a lot of other people as well, because now I've shared it with a lot of people who tell me amazing things. However, again, I'm not guaranteeing it can work for you as well. You just would have to try it, and then you see. But again, and I'll say it one more time, once you hear what it is, and once you realize what I just told you about the programs that we've tried being just scientifically unfounded, then it does make sense. It makes sense to at least give this a good college try, as they say. So Michael told me something that was really impactful to me, because it affects me in business and it affects me in my music. He says the key to being fit is momentum. And when he said that, I'm like, absolutely. I mean, immediately I thought of my piano first, because if I'm not practicing every day, it shows up the second day I haven't practiced. You can tell, or I can tell. There's an old saying, one day of no practice, you can tell. 2 days, your family can tell. 3 days, the whole world knows you haven't practiced. So momentum is critical. I also know in business, whether you like him, hate him, or indifferent, Donald Trump said something about momentum, how critical it is to succeeding in business. And he explains how in the 90s, after he got very successful, it kind of went to his head. His words, not mine. And he started traveling the world. He was doing a lot with the models in France and this, that, and the other. You guys probably remember that about him. He was really gallivanting. He was a playboy. And so he lost focus on his business. Guys, you probably remember this too. He lost everything. He tells a story of being $9 billion in debt after that. And he chalks it all up to losing momentum. He lost his focus, lost momentum, went $9 billion in debt. I'll never forget the story he tells about walking past a homeless man, looking at him, and realizing that the homeless man was worth $9 billion more than him. Okay, folks, that's a sobering thought. Momentum, very important. So Michael tells me about something that I'd forgotten years and years ago. You hear the term Chinese water torture. I hope that's not offensive to anybody. It's certainly not meant that way. I don't know that Chinese people ever really use this, but it's a term that we knew. He used it to explain something to me, so please take it in that vein. If you don't know what this is, it's essentially a simple principle. Basically, if you drop a drip of water in one spot, one time, well, if it hit my head, the top of my head, a drop of water, I'm barely going to feel it, if at all. But if you keep doing that in one spot over and over and over, it literally can drill a hole through rock. In fact, my daughter just brought home a rock from the beach a few weeks back that had that very thing. It had a hole, a beautiful little hole, drilled through it, but it is clearly not by a drill. It's sitting in the ocean for God knows how long. And a hole had drilled through, so a drip of water had for God knows how long, right, folks? That's just incredible. So this happens. You've all seen. I mean, look at the Grand Canyon, right? So he says that it's the consistency. So, you know, but he uses the word Chinese water torture, so I'm like, oh my God, what is he going to tell me to do, right? I'm starting to get a little worried. I really not into anything that's going to be a lot of pain. But Mike went on to explain. He tells me what I just said. You know, one drop won't kill you, but keep it in one spot over and over for a long time, and it'll drill a hole and stuff. So he says that's exactly the same thing for exercise. A tiny bit done consistently will literally carve your body. Now, when he said that, those are his words. Carve was his words. Carve your body. When he said that, I immediately had the image of the Grand Canyon. Okay, I just mentioned that a minute ago. The Grand Canyon is the same thing. It was a little stream of water. Eventually, it carved the Grand Canyon. And look, it carved this spectacular natural wonder, right? So when he says carve your body, I'm like, wow, it like click. You know, folks, I kind of almost think that I got a vision of my own future for a moment, like a brief glimpse, because that word meant something. It made sense. But what he told me, which was absolutely startling, he says, better than going to the gym. And I remember asking, what, better? He says, look, people debate this all day long, but it's just a debate. It's not based on real fact. He says, I've done the tests. I'm telling you. He says, I'm not telling people not to go to the gym. There are some people that going to the gym is the thing they want to do. He says, but, you know, for a guy like you, you don't want to be anywhere near a gym? This is good news for you. But, he said to me, it's going to only work if you do it the way I show you. And this is funny, folks, because I've showed people this technique, and then they've gone off and done it. I'm like, did you actually watch me? I saw you facing me, but you just now, you know, a week later you come back and I've been doing this, and I'm like, that's nothing at all what I showed you, right? And so, look, there's a few ways you can do this where it will work. There's a few ways that you can do it where it will work unbelievably well. You do it the way Michael tells you. And then there's a whole host of ways where it's, you know, it's not going to work, right? You just got to do it the right way. Anything in life, right? Do it right or don't do it at all. So, I'm going to tell you exactly what he told you, completely free of charge. Let me make a little caveat here. I can only do so much in this presentation. I'm already running lower on time than I would have liked to. However, I am going to give you step by step of what to do. This made a major impact in my life. I want to shout it from the rooftops, okay? I want everyone to know this. I told you about my friend who died because I just didn't have the guts at the time to say, hey, do this. It wasn't my thing at the time. I wasn't a salesperson. It just was a sad situation that I wasn't there yet. It was because of him that I said, I've got to go shout this from the rooftops. I can't keep this to myself anymore. So, I first put this out completely for free. I figured that would be the best thing to do. Because, you know, I thought the internet's free, and I'll put it on the internet. It won't cost me anything. It cost me a fortune, folks. There's all sorts of costs to the internet that I had no idea. Bandwidth. There's a lot of things. First of all, then, you know, I put together this program. I had to license some of these ideas. I couldn't steal them from people. So I've got payments I got to make to people. So it cost me a fortune so quickly that it was shocking. So I'm going to tell you how to do it free of charge, but I also have a product that Michael developed that is a really expensive product. Later on, after I've told you what to do, you can go off on your own and do it on your own. Don't need this product. Look, folks, I'm going to tell you what to do. I'm not trying to sell you something, but I know some of you are going to want something that specifically walks you through. Okay? And for those people, there is a product. it's super expensive. I don't want to do that here in this context. So what I'm going to do in this context, and I don't know the number I can do yet because this is actually now formulating in my mind as I'm speaking to you guys, I'm going to figure out my rock bottom number, okay? And that's the number that I'm going to put on this page somewhere, and let you purchase that program for that number, okay? Because I just want you to have it. The reason why we have to, by the way, it wasn't just that it cost me a fortune. I had a mentor tell me, you know, if you give someone something for free, they don't value it. I said, well, are you kidding me? This is the most valuable thing in the world. Of course they're going to value this. They're going to see the value. They're going to get it for free. They're going to think it's even more valuable because it's free, and they're going to use it. He says, no, no, no. He says, how many things do you have that you've gotten for free over the years that sit on a shelf or in your garage? They're really good things. I thought about it, and I thought to myself, wow, you know what? He's right. I have a lot of free things that I never make use of. Programs I bought on the internet that are just sitting on my hard drive, or that I've gotten free, sorry, that are sitting on my hard, that are wonderful programs. The things that I buy, I use because I put money in. The things that I get for free, I tend to say, well, I'll get to that. It's a natural human thing, he was telling me, and so he says, you know, you're doing a disservice to the people you're trying to help by making it free. And that's why we ended up going from free to paid. That and me about going broke from just a short period of free being on the internet. That's incredibly sobering, guys. Don't put anything up for free on the internet if it takes bandwidth at all. I'm warning you. It adds up so quickly, it's an absolute fright. But I divert. So let's go back to our subject. Oh, I do believe it's completely worth your investment to purchase Michael's program. He goes through everything step by step. Then it leaves nothing to chance. I can only go through, you know, the broad strokes here. It will work for you though, but again, if you're like me, I kind of like the step by step. I didn't have the step by step. I would have loved to have what Michael now has. I actually started to use this after he brought it out, even though I'd already lost all the weight, because he does it, like he rotates exercises so you get the full body. It's just super cool. It's super cool. I'm not even going to get into all the details of it. Oh, yeah, you know, it is super cool because, you know, he came up with the actual fitness component, and then I decided that no one should be given a chance to fail at this. So I literally went out and got together an all-star team of health and wellness coaches, weight loss coaches, motivational coaches, and I set up a system. I actually built a system. I have kind of a knack with computer systems. I built a system that allows you to get virtual coaching from these people. You literally get coaching from Dr. Lawless, okay? So it's just a really great system. I really want to minimize the opportunity for anyone to fail at losing weight again. I was able to make it. I believe others can make it as well. Well, now I know, and so I'm hoping you're one of the people as well that can make it as well. Again, I can't guarantee. I wish I could. I don't know that you're going to actually do this as I tell you. I don't know. So if I knew that, maybe I could make some more of a firm statement. So yeah, his program really does. It's incredible. This program that we put together, that I've added all this coaching to, is just incredible. It really is, because there's so many scientific studies that show that if you get some coaching, you're much more likely to lose weight and keep it off. And that means long-term weight wellness. So that's what we're all looking for, right? I've done a bunch of these seminars, presentations, so I forget what I've mentioned to some people and what I haven't. So if I repeat a few things along the way, please forgive me. Yeah, you know, I kind of said this. This is specific guidance, but I don't want to sell you on it. I think you already understand. If you get the product, then you're going to get more of hand-holding. If you need that kind of thing, then get the product. I'm going to make it super cheap. If you don't need that kind of thing, just I'm going to tell you in a moment here, just find the slide, what to do. Yeah, you know what? So you've got a scientifically based technique that works in the real world, and then that same technique makes it really impossible to procrastinate. I mean, the one negative, folks, is once you learn this, it's really puts you in a difficult situation. Because how do you say, oh no, I didn't have time for that? You're going to learn. There's no way to say that, right? So how do you procrastinate this? Well, you'll procrastinate because of bad habits, right? Because you're still stuck in your old ruts. So that's not so much procrastination. It's just more of like I'm stuck in my rut. But I promise you, this is a technique that makes it impossible to procrastinate because everybody's got the time for this. Even I don't care how busy you are. The most busy, wealthy people in the world have time for this. So you do too. Weight loss success. I love that. Obviously, another marketer stuck that in there. Long-term weight wellness, which is what I've experienced. And if I haven't mentioned this before, this is 4 years for me. 4 years. I know sometimes I tell my audiences nearly effortless. I like that word. Nothing is effortless. Whenever you hear, oh, it's effortless, and no, you're obviously lying to me. Nothing in life is effortless that has any value that I've ever come across. If you find something, let me know, please. You do have to make some effort, but the effort is so minimal that really, look, I've been able to keep it for 4 years without doing what I typically would do, and I would lose weight in the past. Like sometimes I'd lose 10, 20 pounds. I'd always put it on within a couple months. It'd always be back on, and then some. So this is 4 years going. I don't make a big effort. I'm never on a diet. I never have to start going to the gym again. None of that. And I'm I was going to say the same condition. I get increasingly better condition as time goes on. There's a lot of little things that happen as time goes on that make me realize, wow, I'm actually improving. So again, anybody who says after 40 you're done, that's just because most people who live in this world are inactive for about 20 years by the time they hit 40 because we've been in the workforce. So by then we all are kind of in that same condition. So we all commiserate together. Oh, it's not you, it's not me, it's 40. Right? You've all heard this. It's horrible because, and it's an unfortunate lie. Nobody means to say it, but it just became what everybody experienced. So everybody's like, well, that's the truth. It's not the truth, folks. Not at all. So let's get to why this works first, and then I'm going to explain what to do because I think it's really important to understand why it works. Then you're like, okay, I'm motivated to do this. Okay. So here's the beginning of the not-so-secret secret. We place a tiny bit of exercise before our meals. Okay? Tiny bit before you eat. By tiny, I mean less than 2 minutes. Okay, this is about the time when everybody gets the look on their face where it's like, oh no, that can't be real. Wipe the look off your face. Remember what I told you. Remember who I am. I'm not here to blow any smoke up your skirt. This works, okay? Remember, what we tried in the past never worked. This, now you know what I meant by opposite. Less than 2 minutes. And remember, Michael specifically was in the kind of condition that you would say, without any question, puts him in the top echelon of the world of physically fit people. Who's doing those kinds of activities, right? That the very most fit people do. And he whittled away his actual workout until to the point where so that he would maintain the condition, but whittle away the time involved to keep that condition, to get that condition. So it's not just keep, folks. It wasn't a slip. You can get. I did it. I got to that. I came from a way different place than he was. So he was in super condition. He whittled away the time he used in the gym and exercise, maintained that condition with a tremendously less amount of time. Now, I went the opposite. I was a blob. I did his technique. I became athletically fit, and I've maintained it now for 4 years using a technique that takes less than a time that it takes to tie your shoes, less than a time that it takes to brush your teeth, or about the same amount of time. It takes less time than you spend on your hair. It takes less time than you spend getting dressed in the morning. And here's where you're going to be shocked. You know that magic pill that they're always talking about, a weight loss pill they're going to develop eventually that we're going to pop and not be fat anymore? Yeah. That pill, you would need to fill a glass of water, open the little bottle with the pill, take the pill out, pop it in your mouth, drink the glass of water. I've timed it. It takes 90 seconds. About the same amount of time as my friend's technique here. So the magic pill, in my opinion, it's already here. Why do I need... And look, I think that I think they will eventually come up with a magic weight loss pill and keep that. I'll keep what I'm doing because I can't imagine it carving your body the way this system works, okay? I can imagine it preventing any fat getting stuck on your body, and I can imagine a lot of people looking really icky, sickly, kind of pasty with skin on bone. I think there is nothing more frightening than the idea of a weight loss pill, guys. I know everybody loves the idea, but if it were actually to work, I think you'd be horrified when you looked in the mirror. You have any idea what a body looks like without any substantive muscle underneath it and no fat? It's not pretty, folks. It's called anorexia. You see the example of what that looks like when you look at the eating disorders, folks. It's horrible. It's not something I would ever aspire to. But anyhow, when the pill comes out, it'll be your choice. Until then, this takes about as long. Now, before you start thinking no way impossible, whatever your preferred choice term of this can't work, whatever it is, I'm going to remind you again. Carson proved this worked in the real world. I've proved it. I've proved it. People whose livelihood depends upon them looking great, not just good, but great because they're in front of a camera, they proved this works. But you know what? I also believe something in your gut is clicking. I really do. I think that most people by now are like, whoa, wait a minute here. This all is starting to make some sense. Here's why. Exercise right before meals boosts your body's metabolic system. Now, if you stick with me, not in this presentation, I have another presentation that talks about metabolism. I'm using the word boost here in a way that is a way of illustrating, okay? I'm not going to go into what metabolism actually is, how it works, and all that. That's its own presentation. So I'm using this term, but I wanted to be very specific about it because everybody talks about fast metabolism, and that's great, okay? Remember how I said a lot of people are wrong about the stuff that they tell all of us? All right, you got to find my metabolism presentation and watch that, okay? But what I'm talking about here, maybe the better word than boost is optimizing your metabolic system, okay? So you exercise before your meals, it optimizes your metabolic system. All it takes to do that, to trigger your metabolic system to be in an optimal state, is 45 seconds of rigorous activity. That's it. Michael told me, when he first told me this, because I was really kind of, look, I was skeptical, not because, I may have mentioned this already, I'm skeptical not because of I don't believe it'll work. I didn't believe it could work for me. I knew it worked for Michael. I knew it worked for his clients. And I'm not, no way I would doubt what this man was telling me. We have too good of a, but I was just really not thinking anything could work for me. I was thinking nothing could work for me. I was at that point, right? It was horrible. I had lost hope, and I was really in bad health, right? This is why I thought I was going to die. It was not a, oh, I think I'm going to, no, I would go to sleep at night afraid that I would not wake up the next morning. I had, at the time, a little baby in the crib next to our bed, next to our wife. I would have this image of my wife waking up to me not breathing. It was horrible, horrible. So all it takes, Michael tells me, all it takes is 45 seconds of rigorous activity to get you into an anaerobic state, which basically means you're out of breath and your heart rate is elevated. And he said to me, it doesn't matter what human being on the planet, that's a thing for all humans. It's in our DNA. He says, you think of Schwarzenegger as being the best in shape. Whoever it is, nobody can go more than 45 seconds without going anaerobic if they're rigorous. So, and anaerobic, like I said, means that you need more air to fuel what you're doing than your lungs are able to physically take in. Okay, so you start moving, and that's why you start breathing fast. Your body's like, okay, put more air in me, put more oxygen in me. And your heart rate starts pumping faster to pump that blood through, the oxygenated blood through your system. So that's what anaerobic really means, okay? It's the state of being out of breath. Aerobic exercise, as they put it, is talking about that. Anyhow, I look, I don't want to dismantle an entire cottage industry, but look, do aerobics if that's what you love in life. I just don't see the point. Maybe because it's a good place to hang out, you have friends there, okay. Certainly probably won't harm you, although how many times have you gotten injured exercising too hard, right? I've never gotten injured doing this 2-minute thing. It's really difficult to injure yourself doing the exercises you show you in 2 minutes. It just doesn't happen. So the simple state of needing more air than you can take in does remarkable things. It puts your metabolism into overdrive. Maybe a better word is it optimizes it. And it does other things too. I hope I talk about it later, but it will improve your digestive system. It improves your circulatory system. It improves your neurological system. All of this stuff happens within the 2 minutes. There may be another slide later on, but I'm going to talk about this here. There is a long benefit that comes after you exercise of that exercise. So you exercise and then the benefit kicks in. And the benefit lasts a number of hours. And that benefit doesn't kick in until you stop exercising, folks. Okay? So this slide basically says, look, if you're exercising, doing an activity that needs more oxygen than what you can get, then your body has to do something to make up the difference, right? Nobody like falls to the ground after they've been running for 45 seconds, right? I mean, hopefully, right? Most people can then keep going, and some people for a long time. Why? Well, their body adapts. It's how it does it, okay? So your metabolism, I don't like this cranks way up. Your metabolism optimizes, okay, so that it can make use of what oxygen you're getting and let that go farther, okay? Oh, this is the slide I thought was coming up. So what happens is, once that state of optimization has been triggered, which remember, folks, no human being on Earth can resist 45 seconds of rigorous activity. By the way, rigorous doesn't have to mean something that an Olympian does. Rigorous for you, right? Not rigorous for Michael, right? Rigorous for him is something totally different. Rigorous for you in your state is what you need. Okay, that was what was beautiful, by the way, because I originally thought, man, I can't do what you do. I will drop dead of the heart attack I'm afraid I'm going to have. He's like, no, man, don't worry. It's just whatever's rigorous for you, and I never want you to get to the point where you're feeling overexerted. It's just nice exertion for 90 seconds. He always used 90 seconds. I say under 2 minutes, whatever. You get the sense. 45 seconds is the cutoff period. He likes to go a little bit beyond that just to make sure you're really in that state, right? But this effect lasts 4 to 6 hours. What I thought was remarkable, when I went and looked this up, because I had to go look that up, because what this means, I eat, all of us should be eating, by the way. It's part of the thing. You've got to eat breakfast, by the way. You've got to eat breakfast. If you're not willing to eat breakfast, folks, just hang up right now. Please, 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 do not give me the excuses. Do not. You just, look, nothing will ever work for you. You need to eat to lose weight. I learned that as a result of this program. I already told you how not eating will cause you to keep weight on. If you start your day off with not eating, your body's in that mode the whole day. No matter what you do from that point on, it's working. You're working. You've dug yourself a hole you'll never get out of. You understand? Do not glamorize it. Do not use it as a badge of honor that you don't have time for breakfast. I'm too busy. I just don't eat no more. Don't do any of that and expect to lose weight. Okay? I gotta be direct with you, because too many people have loaded you up with baloney. Okay? I love you folks, but I am not going to sit here and let you have any misconceptions about what it takes. You do need to eat breakfast. You don't need to eat a ton in the morning. You need to eat something. I'll go into that later. What's remarkable, folks, is that this effect from that little bit of exercise lasts 4 to 6 hours, but it doesn't kick in until you stop exercising. Let me say that again. The benefit of exercise does not begin until you stop exercising. So let me give you an absurd example. If you're one of these ultra exercisers that exercise 3-4 hours straight, great. You get no benefit until you've stopped. And by the way, if you're exercising that much, you're just tearing your body apart. It's not good for you. Anyhow, you may not want to believe that because we've been programmed by the weight loss industry. They needed to program us, folks, because the things that they're selling us go against human nature that I've already talked to you about, right? So what did they need to do? They needed to inundate us with wrong information. That's what they did, and now they even believe it. You're thinking right about now that I'm saying all of these weight loss people are a bunch of liars. I'm actually not. Even the experts have fallen under this spell. They believe what they're telling you is true. They're wrong, and they cannot argue that point with me. It's not debatable any longer. I have the science, the facts, everything. But they believe it, and they don't believe they're lying. And they will argue with me. And some of them won't even listen to the science. They're so locked into this is their livelihood and living, they get offended, they walk away. I've seen that, folks. And that's what happens when I put these presentations up. I get a lot of negativity from the weight loss industry. They try everything possible to get me to pull this stuff off. They do things that are frankly unethical. They're definitely unethical. I wonder if they're illegal. I don't have the time to invest in chasing them down. And but I have a feeling it's not right what they're doing. I mean, should your choices be limited? Should you not be able to hear what I'm saying? Because they control the market? I mean, I think it's offensive. This is America, and I think it's offensive. So this time I'm doing this in a way where they cannot get me to take it down. Okay? They cannot. So I'm going to say it again right now so that you guys that are out to try to get this option away from people that need it. Here's your term that you need so well. This will not work for all people. There you go. You guys satisfied? It will not work for all people. There's no guarantee. I mean, that should be a given. They just, the industry caused a lot of regulations to happen in government that is essentially designed to make it impossible for new ideas to surface successfully. It protects the status quo, the businesses in place. And unfortunately, it is you that suffers because they take away the ability for me to get out there and actually do things the right way. It's a very sad state of affairs. What it really says is that the government, because of the special interest big business has passed legislation that basically says, yeah, people aren't smart enough to make their own decisions. That's what they've done to us, folks. That is what they've done. I'm not politicizing this. I'm saying it in specifics. In this industry, there are so many regulations that serve big business, that prevent new ideas from surfacing, that is what they have done. They have said, look, you folks, you're just not bright enough to make up your own mind. You won't know a scam from a real thing. That's what they're saying. So they put a bunch of laws in place, so I have to say ridiculous things, like this will not work for anybody. That's the safest way. I have friends now that basically market products in the weight loss industry. They start off by saying, this doesn't work, because otherwise they're in deep trouble. They get targeted. The second you get a little big, they get targeted. So here, folks, this doesn't work. Most people, it won't work. Most people won't do it. Most people will hear about it, do it wrong. Most people will, should not believe it. There. Now we're covered. Sorry I sound so upset about that, but I came into this saying I got a great idea. I want to give it away for free. And I got just blasted. I got blasted. So I'm a little upset by that because I believe that it's a barrier to entry for many, many ideas that have profound positive impact in our lives that are being prevented from reaching market because of complete overregulation. Okay? And overregulation is just because they think you're not smart enough to make a decision. Look, there's some things we need regulations for, but other things, hey, I trust you to be a bright person. If someone says, take this magic pill and you're going to lose weight by tomorrow morning, I believe you know that that's not going to work. I believe that if you buy it, you know that it's not going to work, but you're like, you know what, I got to take a chance anyhow. And then it's on you, right? I've done that, folks. It's on us. It's our responsibility. Why are they getting involved? It prevents new ideas from coming to market, guys. So, it does not, I repeat, it does not matter if you exercise 1 minute, 1 hour. The effect is almost the same. It is not the same. Almost the same. I can't say it's the same. The reason why I can't say it's the same is I can't live 2 lives at the same time to split test them, to see, okay, well, this version of me did an hour a day and this version did a minute a day, and which one's in better shape. You can't do that. We're all single people, and you can compare people, but they're different people. So the effect is almost the same, and the reason why this sentence is even in here is because Michael believes that to an extent the effect is the same. I want to clarify that just for a second. Look, if you're looking to build huge biceps, huge whatever muscles, then you're probably going to need to get into the gym. If you're looking to get great definition in an athletic kind of built body that is very versatile no matter what sport, no matter what, that's what this system gives you, right? But if you're looking for bodybuilding kind of huge muscles, that is not this, okay? So that's why I specifically want to say it's not the same exact benefit. However, I personally don't know that all that extra bulky muscle is a benefit. So again, really, I question everything now, folks. I question everything. So I already went through the body needs to make up the difference between how much you have of oxygen and how much you need. I don't like the word cranks up metabolism. You'll learn about that in another presentation. But it definitely optimizes, pardon me. So you do that, you do this little burst of activity, and then you eat. Well, for those of you that have been camping, think about a fire. Your campfire, okay? If you wait until the fire's died out and it's only some embers in there and you throw firewood on, what happens? Well, generally, it's very difficult to get that firewood to light. But if you throw that same log onto a roaring fire, it lights very easily. That's the concept here, is you're optimizing your body's systems for the digestive process, for the process of taking that food that's digested and taking the nutrients and delivering them specifically to the areas of your body that need them most. So you're optimizing that process, and then you're throwing food on. Okay? Now your body's going to go, oh, great, there's some protein, there's some carbs, and there's some fat. I'm going to use the fat for energy, I'm going to use the carbs for energy, and I'm going to use the protein to build muscle. There's some nutrients that are needed in that little area of his shoulder where he's having a little pinch, and there's I need to get some over here. You get what I'm saying here. Your body then is like, okay, good, I can work with this, right? Not like usually, and our society is so opposite, right? It's like, sit down, eat, it's like there's no activity before. It's all about a sedentary experience, and I'm fine. I'm sedentary once I sit down, but I just always take that 90 seconds before I sit down to do this, all right? And it's exactly the same as throwing fuel onto a roaring fire, okay? Your body uses it. It's much less prone to storing calories as fat because it's in the mode of using calories to energize your body and to build muscle. It's in the opposite mode. Do you get it, guys? That's why it's so important to eat. You need to eat to lose weight. You cannot lose weight by not eating because your body will hoard. Ah, so true. And kind of a bummer, too, because what's your excuse going to be? It's 90 seconds, right? I said 2 minutes, 90 seconds. 90 seconds. What's your excuse? Well, I didn't have time to drink water today. That took 90 seconds. I didn't have time to tie my shoe. I didn't have time to put on a shirt. All these things take 90 seconds. You have time for them. You have time for this too. You wash your hands before you eat, I hope. 90 seconds. about to wash your hands. Throw another 90 seconds in. No one will ever know you're gone. For years, I did this. No, everyone still jokes. They're like, "Oh, you missed your 90 seconds. Came to dinner. I didn't see you sneak off." I'm like, I literally excuse myself. Folks, I literally will say, "Excuse me, I'm running to the restroom real quick to wash my hands." 90% of the time, people don't even remember I left for the restroom because they're in their conversation. It's not like I'm gone an hour to the gym and then come back and they're like, "Where have you been?" Right? I'm gone for like 3 minutes, 90 seconds to wash my hands and 90 seconds to do my little deal, right? Most of the time, they don't even know I've gone, so they're like, "Oh, I see you're eating, you didn't do it." They like try to get me. I'm like, "No, guy, I definitely I put it in. I never miss. I haven't missed, folks." I think I did the calculation the other day. It's like 4,300 meals. I have not had to miss one. This means I've gone through regular life. I've gotten sick, colds, flus, all of that. Still maintain it. If I could eat, I could do 90 seconds before. I forced myself. Sometimes I remember one of the flu bouts I got. It's a little difficult. You have the flu and you're forcing yourself to move, and I'm shivering. But I'm like, I'm not eating that chicken soup unless I do this 90 seconds. I'm not, because that chicken soup will help me 20 times more if I energize and optimize my body first. And so I get sick, like these brutal flus that people get, and they're down for a week, 2 weeks. I'm done in like 2 days, 3 days max, right? I'm back and running fine. So it minimizes the time you're sick. It minimizes the time you spend sick and how many times you get sick. Like, I have kids in school kids. So they come home with all sorts of things. The wife gets sick. I can bet 80%, 90% of the time that the kids bring home something, I'm not going to get sick. Like, they'll be throwing up and stuff, and I'm not even concerned about picking it up from them. I'll hold them, kiss them. I'm not concerned because I know my body can handle the majority of the bugs that come through, and that my body will know when to let a bug come through because maybe I just need it. Have you ever thought about that too? I have. Anyhow, I've thought about a lot of things since I've learned that things aren't what they really seem in the world of health and wellness. So what is your excuse going to be that you're not doing 90 seconds before your meals? What is it? Come on, now you got to think about it, because now I've unfortunately screwed up the rest of your life. I've told you I've got a secret for you, which isn't a secret. I've given it to you. Well, I haven't told you what to do exactly yet, but in broad strokes, you could already run off and do it, right? Get yourself out of breath for 90 seconds, right? But really out of breath, right, guys? And sorry, I always have visions of one person I showed this to, and I was specific. I mean, so specific. I gave them the program free. This is the problem with giving program free. They never logged in. Never. I can tell when someone logs in or not in the early days. Now I can't. But in the early days, I wanted to know, people use it. She never logged in. Came up with her own way of doing it. It didn't work because, you move for 90 seconds, but if you're not out of breath at the end of 90 seconds, sorry. And there's better exercises than others. Some work better, some don't work at all. Again, you need to be out of breath. So again, I messed up your life, huh? Because you now know 90 seconds will most likely, not guaranteed, but most likely help you, may help you. I don't know what words to use here because the government's looking over my shoulder. What words can I use? What's good today, FDA, or whoever's ruling this in this moment? What's good for me to say to these people that are suffering? Look, there's no guarantee that this will work for you. So let's phrase it a different way. 90 seconds is almost nothing. Do it. See if it works for you. It may work for you. It may. It most likely won't because of all the government words that I have to tell you, right? They want me to say that you're not capable of understanding. They want me to tell you all these things. It's insulting. But there, I've said it all, and now, what excuse do you have to not do it, right? So, not guaranteeing it'll work, but how are you going to justify it, right? It's just too tiny of investment in time. I really want to stress that to you because I want you to go away going, shoot, I feel guilty if I don't do this because he told me it's only 90 seconds. And if what happened to him happens to me, I'm going to have a brand new life. Folks, it's a brand new life. First of all, I'm alive. I don't think I would have made it this far. I really don't. Some serious health issues that were supposed to be forever, like I just was going to live with them until I died, totally reversed and went away. They weren't supposed to. My doc said one of them in particular is like, no, it's impossible. Two of them actually. I don't know, the third actually too. Usually people get operations for that. Anyhow, I've had a lot of really concerning things disappear. Again, that probably won't happen to you, but it may, right? So why is it not worth your time to invest in yourself? Again, certain timings that work better than others. That's very true. There's certain timings that work better than others, certain exercises that work better than others. But basically, if you stick with before your meals, you're going to be fine. Get yourself out of breath. Oh, okay. Now, I know where this is going, folks. The My Mobile Minute Success Coaching Weight Loss and Weight Wellness Program, this is a presentation I gave a while back where this is a very expensive program. It's a full program. I mean, this is, you know, full coaching, full everything. You know, it's super expensive. My purpose in this presentation today is to give you the knowledge to go off and do this yourself, and also to not, I want to get you, if you want that hand holding, if you were like, yeah, I really want to see how Michael tells us specifically, I want to get you that without you having to spend an arm and a leg, okay? And yet I can't give it to you for free because it'll put me out, make me bankrupt because of the bandwidth charges. So happy end. I also pay licensing. If I didn't mention that before, I have to pay people that provide services in this. So I didn't think of all of that initially, and literally, folks, literally within a course of like 2 days, I was in an extremely bad situation. Okay, that the internet is a huge place, and when people start downloading, it starts to cost. And then all of us, you know, and all of a sudden it's like, how many units went out? I've got to pay how much to everybody? I wasn't prepared for that. So I am going to, so I can't do it for free, but I am going to come up with a price, and this is all kind of on the spur of the moment, so I don't know that price yet. After I finish this presentation, I'm going to actually go through the math, and I'm going to call my bookkeeper, make sure I haven't missed anything. I'm going to add a tiny little margin in case I do miss something, and then that's the price for you. So it's just my expenses, which is bandwidth, and the licensing I have to pay the coaches, and then a tiny bit there, just a tiny bit, because I'm probably going to be wrong to a degree. So we're going to put like 2% or 5% on top of that price of the bare minimum, just so that I have a little leeway in case the cost goes up, which it somehow always does. So anyhow, that's what I'm going to do for you today. So if a slide comes up with a huge number on it, that's not your number, I promise you. Yeah, this program is going to teach you exact right timings, exact right exercises, best way to maximize your minute or two of activity. Okay, so that's really the value of it. Again, if you're a kind of go-it-alone person, I've kind of told you what to do, so you can go it alone. If you're kind of person like, I got told like you just got told, and then I went and did it. Literally, he was on the phone, because he lives in at the time he was living in Santa Monica, or I forgot where he was. Actually, now he's in Marina del Rey. Anyhow, he's somewhere in that area, and I'm in the valley of San Fernando Valley, so I'm, you know, it's a distance. It's only like 30 miles or 20 miles, but in California and Los Angeles, that's like a day's travel back and forth. So I'm on the phone with him. He tells me this on the phone. I didn't have visuals or anything. I went off and did it. I was able to make it work. So you have as much information as I did, and I got it to work, okay? But I am, like some of you who like the hand-holding, I would have preferred, so much so, this program. So much so. Actually, yeah, although I've gotten my end result, I struggled initially. I struggled. The first few months, I really struggled. I had no guidance. And Michael's busy. I didn't want to call him every day. You know, I'd call him every few weeks and, you know, touch base once a week. But I constantly had questions, right? I'm like, what about this? Like a million questions come up, right? And so you're like, I got to get this answered, but I didn't want to bug him, and so I'd wait for the call, and then, you know, and then I'd ask a trillion questions. All of those questions got put into this program so that you can get those questions answered, right? Okay, so this is where I'm going to not go any further with the slides, because it will just go into the regular price of the program. So Yes, you should, I believe. Click the orange button. Um, don't take any chances. Let me hold your hand, especially at that price I'm giving you below, whatever that is. I know that is rock bottom. I'm going to figure that out, and we're going to put that up for you. I recommend that because you will have questions, and honestly, I do my best to answer random questions that come in, but you know, you're much better off. Look, it's going to be so little of an investment here. You're much better. You're going to have access to Dr. Lawless of the Dr. Phil Show. You're going to have access, which I want to say this in a way that Dr. Phil is brilliant, but when Dr. Phil needs to rely on um, a real studied and extremely knowledgeable psychological perspective, that's why he has Dr. Lawless working with him at the show. Dr. Lawless is Dr. Phil's right-hand guy. Dr. Phil is not a therapist, unlike what most people think. He has not been licensed for, I don't know, decades. It wasn't his thing. He is a licensed person, not licensed, he has a degree, yes, but he's not a practicing psychologist. It's different. So when those issues come up, then he refers to Dr. Lawless, who is a licensed practicing psychologist. And, by the way, one of the leading psychologists in the world today. Do you realize this is the gentleman, when I talk about his programs about, you know, setting your mind in the right direction, the Think and Grow Thin programs, to get in the right space mentally, to create the right mental habits to lead to weight loss. That's the field of neuro. Oh my goodness, the word is so big, it's slipping me at the moment. He calls it brain entrainment, but there's a much more scientific word. He uses brain entrainment when he's speaking to folks like you and me. So let's just use that for the moment. But it has to do with neuroplasticity, and so it's a neuroplasticity science or something. But he's like the founding father of that whole field, or one of the pioneers. He's one of the leading experts in the field of imagery, which, you know, that's not hypnosis, by the way. A lot of people confuse the two. Imagery is very different. And he's one of the leading guys. You will have access to him. So it's one of those things where I've wanted to make it as easy as possible for anyone to succeed the way I have. I didn't have a lot of these resources, but I did have the ability to call Doc and call Michael. You know, so I was able to, on occasion, say, hey, listen, what do you think here? What do you think there? So that's what I put together here for you. Again, the price below is as rock bottom as it gets, and the regular price right now is, at the time of this filming, for just our basic, is over $147, I think, right now. So that's I'm giving you an exceptional deal today for being part of this particular presentation. I want this message out there. It's profoundly impactful, and it may or may not work for you, but by all means, give it a shot. It's only 90 seconds. Whether you want to buy the product that helps you along or not, you know enough now to go off and do this, okay? Do it. It's 90 seconds. You only stand to benefit. Here's one of the basic pieces of logic I use for people that are super skeptics. You know, people who are like, you know, just the grump. Well, here's what I say to them. Even as grumpy as you are, you will admit that 90 seconds of exercise 3 times a day is better than what you're doing right now. Okay? All people will admit that. I should say almost all people will admit that. It just makes sense, right? If you're doing something rather than nothing, it's going to be better. But let me caution those of you. Now, I'm cautioning you just in a way of being informative. For those of you that believe that the exercise you get walking around the house doing chores is equivalent to what I'm talking about, and you're like, well, I do 8 hours of that and then I eat. It's not at all the same, guys. I don't want to dissuade people from going to the mall and walking the mall, because I think that's a social thing. It's nice. It's fun. It keeps you in the community. You know, I don't want to dissuade you. If you'd like doing stuff like that, that's fine. Do it. It's giving you some benefit. I'm not saying it's giving you none. But the time you spend walking around the mall for an hour or whatever it is, you'd get more benefit from the 90 seconds that I'll show you than the hour you spent walking around the mall. Period. There's not even a contest. There isn't. Logic doesn't even, there's no logic to support it because, first of all, you're just using your legs when you're walking around the mall. Well, maybe you got some weights you say on your hand. Okay. You're still doing just a walking motion. When Michael said carve your body, see, I've given you some, I've told you, look, you do this before, you know, do some exercise before you eat. But with his programs, his actual exercises, alternate. Every month he gives you a new set, right? So that your body alternates the muscles, and a month is important. You need to get used to the one movement for a month. Your body needs to make that a habit. Remember that whole saying that it takes 21 to 30 days to form a habit? So that's why a month of one exercise, but then you move on to another. And he's just made some great exercises, folks, things that I've never seen before anybody doing. Simple, things that can be done in a restroom stall, which is, by the way, the majority of my gyms, quote unquote, have been restroom stalls in the restaurants in my neighborhood. In fact, I have a whole list of the restaurants that have the best gyms, restrooms. Like there's a few, like at the bowling alley, where I will not go to the restroom to do my 90 seconds there. I won't because it's just too crowded, too tiny. I just walk out to the alley or parking lot there. But you know, the bottom line is a lot of places have, you know, at least like a little room in the stall, and that's all it takes. But these movements carve your body. You'll get it more. It's hard for me to say it because you'll get it when you do it. You'll just go, oh wow, if I keep doing this every day little by little, it's going to be like the Grand Canyon. It's going to carve away all the excess stuff, and I'm going to be left with the natural wonder of my own self. That's really what it is, folks. That's really what it is. Now, one last thing I'm going to say before I sign off is that you might be thinking, well, at 90 seconds of workout, even though it's, you know, before every meal 3 times a day, that'll take me hundreds of years to lose all my weight. You know, when I lost all my weight and I decided, wow, I got to share this message, so I'd lost the 70 pounds, and I'm like, wow, you know, and I didn't just lose the 70 pounds, my health issues disappeared, but the weight in particular. But I'm like, this should be a product. That's what I called Michael. I'm like, would you mind? And could, you know, I'll give you a little percentage of everything. Of course, it's your concept, this, that, and the other. And we went through that, got all the permissions and all of that. But I really felt like this is a program that needed a little bit more, right? And Michael in particular, with the whole carving thing, that's what I'm still getting my head around how I want to tell you that. Michael changing the exercises every month, being in tune with what that does to your body, that is profoundly impactful. Let me explain a little bit better. I'm really stumbling for my words here. I've been talking for over 45 minutes, guys. I'm really ready to wrap this up. So my original point I've lost. As you can probably tell, I've had one of those senior moments. I'm not senior. But